Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Tyler Freeman on the Empire Podcast. This is now episode 4, baby. So we're rocking and rolling, and I do not have my original co-host, Anthony Martin, here today. Unfortunately, he is sick. However, I do have somebody you've heard a lot about, haven't got to see on camera yet, my business partner, my Empire personnel, my lead agent, my entrepreneur, my guy, Jeff Quisby here. So go ahead, Jeff, introduce yourself, let them know a little bit about you and kind of what you are and where you're from.
Well, guys, as my host said, my name is Jeff, and originally I'm not here from Texas. A lot of people think I am because I'm brown, but disregard that. But either way, I'm originally from New Jersey. Me and my wife were both in the military. We moved around a couple different places and finally decided to come back to San Antonio and live it up.
You've been living here for what now? Back in San Antonio?
Here in San Antonio, I'm back here. This is my first official year back in San Antonio.
First official year, baby. Let's go. And he originally lived in El Paso before here, right?
Yep.
El Paso.
A year ago, before we moved down to San Antonio, we lived down in El Paso. My wife was stationed down there, so we was down there for almost about 2 years. But living in the desert can have its up and downs, more downs than ups. That's why we came back to San Antonio. Greenery, we got lakes, we got rivers. It's an amazing place to be.
I love San Antonio. I love the weather here because where I'm from originally in Arkansas, it's all cold. Normally, right now, it's, probably dropping 60s, 50s, so I can't imagine New Jersey where it is right now.
Oh, yeah, that up there, it gets pretty cold up there. Like right now, from what my family's been telling me, they're transitioning towards what they call the winter season. It's starting to rain, it's starting to get cold, temperatures are dropping in the low 60s, and yeah, that's just the beginning of it. Once we get closer to our winter, it gets worse, and it gets colder. So, no thank you for me.
So, today I wanted to bring you on, and I thought it would be a good thing to bring you on because you do have a wife, you do have 2 kids already, a newborn, almost a year old now, born in last December. One of the big questions that not only realtors, but entrepreneurs and business people in general, and I feel, even people who work extremely hard to try and realize certain goals, I think a lot of people ask us, why? Why are you grinding? Why do you work so hard? Why do you push the way you do? Why do you want to be successful so bad? And I kind of want to cover that a little with you. However, I want to start with the statement of, I don't think it's more on the why, I think it's more on the what. The what do you do on a daily basis to make sure your why is covered and taken care of? And what are you doing to make the why possible? Right?
So my why, and I'm going to tell you guys the reason why I got into real estate. One of the reasons why I got into real estate is I've had multiple careers before this one. I had my CDL, I was in the military before that, and then finally I decided to get into real estate. But it wasn't always an easy route. It was mainly a lot of people telling me, hey, you can't do that. As you notice, my hand looks weird because my hand was messed up for a while. And for the longest time, the reason why they medically retired me out of the military, because couldn't do artillery, couldn't blow stuff up with a messed up hand. Got my CDL, my commercial driver license, and driving trucks for 3 months, they still said I couldn't do it. So, spent the rest of 2019 trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do with my life, and boom, it clicked. Somebody told me, why don't you get into real estate? And I was like, well, why? I'm not a good salesman, I don't like selling stuff. And they told me, just do it. It's something that you might be feasible to do. You have a messed up hand, you're able to type, you're able to do things pretty much on your own schedule. So I was like, okay, got my license, and I got licensed right before everything shut down. But I never really knew my why then. My why was mainly because I wanted to find a career first on what I wanted to do, and real estate just seemed my reason why to get into it. As I got into it further, it wasn't mainly until I got down here in San Antonio is where I actually realized why I got into this. Main reason is everybody gets into real estate to get rich. That's not why you should get into real estate. Real estate is not about getting rich. It's not about making a lot of money. It is, don't get me wrong. You can definitely make a lot of money doing that, but at the same time, you got to realize that in order to get that, you have to be able to achieve a lot more. So my why and my reason why I got into real estate is to help families as best as I can. And I didn't realize that a whole year later after I got licensed. The first year, it was mainly money. Money, 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 money. And that's awesome. That's great. But it never really got me anywhere until I started realizing why I really wanted to be here. And once I started realizing that, helping families, providing the best I can be, providing for my family, and being the best version of myself for my family, my kids, and my wife. That's the reason why I continued being in real estate and the reason why I chose to be here.
That's a mic drop. God dang. I like it. Now, as you heard him say, you know, everyone gets into real estate for certain reasons. You know, a lot of people think that, especially I would say in the past 2 years, a lot of people have gotten into real estate because they see their friends or their homies or their parents or their relatives making a ton of money, which is possible to make a ton of money in real estate. I'm not even going to lie to you. Being a real estate agent is one of the most rewarding jobs monetarily, but I also think that knowing real estate is also rewarding in so many other aspects than just money. I think that's a big one. I think that's a huge one that I'm going to have to put on repeat for a while for what he just said, because that literally lays it out perfectly of, you know, why he got into real estate. So, and then on why he changed his mindset too. So I'm glad we covered that, because that was good to hear. But even more importantly is the what, right? And I'm going to ask him what he does on a daily to make sure that that why is taken care of, because as you just heard, his why is about helping families, it's about serving others, it's about putting families in the best situation possible financially through real estate, right? And helping people get homes. I know you've already helped multiple foreclosed people get into homes, whether it be a rental or a buy side. You know, and that's just going above and beyond, because not all of us know realtors that if you have foreclosure on your record, most realtors will just count you off.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, you got to wait 7 years, you got to wait 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I remember the one renter you had who, I mean, it was her ex-husband who got foreclosed on, and he was going to be homeless, and you were helping him get in a rental.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there's definitely a why there, but I really want you to cover and kind of break down the what, right? Because the what, I feel, gives the why a lot of power. And shout out to Lenny Walls and Manny Diot this past weekend. I was at a conference with them, and I got to hear them speak about this. You know, so I want you to kind of cover the what. Like, what do you do on a daily to make sure you're serving families and you're serving at the highest ability and you're making sure that everyone is taken care of? What do you do?
So, on a daily, from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep, the first thing I do in the morning is, if I had a good night's sleep, because I also do have a newborn, sometimes I don't sleep right throughout the night.
Shout out to newborn parents.
But the moment I wake up, I get my mindset ready. And yes, I get everybody hears that. You gotta change your mindset the first thing you wake up, because it is true. The very first thing that you do in the morning is what defines the rest of your day. And my first thing in the morning is I get up. By 6 o'clock, I'm already at the gym and I'm already working out, talking to a couple people at the gym, doing my workout. But by 7, I'm usually heading back home, because my wife puts my daughter into school. I come home, I gotta get my newborn ready, put him into daycare, get all that stuff situated. I do all that before 8 o'clock. By 8 o'clock, 8:30ish, I take out my dogs, because I also do have 3 dogs, and I also gotta take care of those guys. So I take out my dogs and I let them do whatever they need to do. By 8:30, I'm having breakfast. By 8:35, maybe 8:40, the latest, I'm heading towards the office, and that's usually where my day begins. And what I do every single day to continue living the life that I live is, in this business, you always have to network, you always have to talk, you always have to do things that you normally wouldn't do, but you do it because you have to.
Now I want to pause you there, and I want to kind of ask you this question. Is that normal for you? Like, is it your normal personality to sit there and talk to everybody you see? Like, is that how you grew up? Did you grow up just talking to everybody, or were you more reserved, and now that you're in real estate and you know that's what you have to do, you just do it?
So I've always been what they call a people person. I can blab and talk about whatever, right? Which is good and bad. Sometimes bad more than good, but it's I've always been a very outgoing person when it comes to talking to people, and like I said, I'll ramble and we'll talk, but sometimes it's about irrelevant stuff. Now the way I've situated myself, of course, changing your mindset on how you do things. Yes, I can still blab and talk, but I also got to make things very more specific and more timely. Because if I'm sitting here talking to Tyler about something, and we can talk sometimes, but I'm not getting stuff done that I need to do for my business, then it's not getting me anywhere. We can sit here, talk and blab or whatever, but it's not benefiting me in any way or form. And that's the reason why I decided to change my mindset on when I do talk to people. Yes, I still talk to people every single time, but now I always have a reason to talk to them. I always have a reason to blab for a couple minutes, but it's never for more than 5 minutes. If I talk to somebody, it's always about 5 minutes. I introduce myself, get to know them a little bit, create a little relationship within the 5 minutes I talk to somebody. And usually
you're more intentional with it now,
Yeah.
with your conversations. And I mean, I think that's one thing I learned very late in life too, is being very intentional with conversations. So I like that you said that too. But go ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead, keep going.
But overall, it's about asking for the business. We are in a business in general, and what I do daily is the reason why my family and everybody gets taken care of. Because I go in there, and instead of having to just ramble about the day, the weather, and everything, yeah, I do that. But I also tend to ask for the business in return. Mm-hmm. We're not secret agents here. We're still running a business either way. So, yeah.
So off of the real estate business, I know me and Anthony have kind of talked about it in prior episodes, just giving little snippets. But you know, we own a moving company too, right? Mm-hmm. And then we have other plans in the works, and we have other things going on as far as things in timelines, right? So by January, we want to have another little situation, and then by March, April timeframe, we want to have another branch of the Empire Realty Group. So what do you think drives those things, right? What do you do to kind of make sure that those things are going on? Because like everyone says, if you're not learning, you're not growing, and if you're not growing, you're not expanding, and if you're not expanding, you're stuck in the same place, right? So what do you do to make sure that you're not stuck in the same place? Because I think that's a problem with a lot of entrepreneurs or business people. I think they get stuck. So what, if you do get stuck, what do you do to overcome it, and how do you kind of program your what throughout your day to make sure you don't get stuck?
I get uncomfortable. That's my biggest thing. You can never be too comfortable in what you're doing, where you're at. For example, living-wise. Me and my wife, we moved consistently maybe about 6 times in the past 5 years. Mm-hmm. Sounds crazy, right? But it's true. And we never really feel comfortable anywhere we move. Because the moment we do start getting comfortable, it just, it scares us. We don't like being comfortable. And now, right now, here in San Antonio, that we moved back down here, we like it here. We're going to live here. We're not going to be bouncing around and stuff. But you got to learn how to become uncomfortable in order to be able to grow. Because the moment you start getting comfortable in a certain spot, and that goes for anybody in general. You living at home, you living in your hometown, you living in the same place you grew up, that's you being comfortable. And you never grow outside of that. The moment you want to grow and expand your wings to start flying and literally going above and beyond from what you can imagine is getting uncomfortable. Once you learn how to do that, and it is going to be uncomfortable, coming out of your comfort zone, you tend to see how big you grow.
I like that you just said that. Get uncomfortable. Get okay with being uncomfortable. And I think, that kind of stems back to everyone always asks why, right? Everyone always wants to know why. And why do you want to own a Chick-fil-A? Well, why do you work at Walmart? Why have you been a cart pusher for 15 years? Why do you look like you should be retired, but you're still out here working? Why? But no one takes a second to ask the what. And I think right now he just kind of hit the nail on the head with getting uncomfortable, right? So instead of just asking why, not even just asking yourself why, but more so asking yourself what, is a big factor, I feel, especially, in a business like ours.
Yeah.
It's, well, Jeff, what are you doing today? Do you have calls you need to make? Are you progressing yourself? Are you learning something? Are you stepping in a room and making sure you learn something from somebody? Because, trust me, now I've never been the smartest of guys, right? And especially in school. But trust me, I've stepped in those AP classes and I've been like, wow, I'm actually learning stuff But it's really hard to go in a room where you feel that you know everything, and it's really hard to sit there and intentionally learn something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's where you start to feel that uncomfortability, is when you know everything, but you dumb yourself down and you say, hey, I'm gonna humble myself for a minute. Let me step in here. Let me learn something and be intentional with the time that I'm using. And I think getting uncomfortable in that way helps a lot. I mean, do you have anything to say on that too? Or
Well, yes.
is that your process when you're going in somewhere?
So anytime I ever walk into somewhere, I always walk into a room as if I don't know anything. Because you can always learn something from somebody else, regardless of how much knowledge they have or don't. There's different aspects of learning, different aspects of getting uncomfortable. Business-wise, yeah, you can go out and get mentors and everything and learn from that way and get uncomfortable that way. But at the same time, just walking into a room full of people and not knowing not a soul, you got to put yourself to a place to where you don't know anything as well. You're just their same level, because that's how you learn. You're getting uncomfortable. You might know this. Yes, you might know that. But at the same time, it's not about you learning those type of situations. It's about you learning new aspects of something different from an area where you're just not very familiar with.
Right.
Like I can walk into a networking event that was meant for car washers or meant for different owners of different types of business, and I won't know anything about them or about that business. But I walk in there with a with an open mindset and learn, because that's me getting uncomfortable, going to a place that I don't know, talking to people that have no idea what they're doing with, but gets me uncomfortable, but it gives me an opportunity to learn.
Yeah, I like that you say that too, because I mean, there's situations where, shout out to Chris Cano and Aligned, you know, they have different seminars and stuff. I've been to it's the same seminar. I think I've been in a total over the last years, I think I've been 5 or 6 times now. And every single time, you know, first off, I went in there the very first time and I told myself, man, I'm not going to write that many notes. And I had 2 pages, had to pull out an extra piece of notebook paper because I was writing down extra notes. And every time I went after that, I told myself, you know, it's going to be the same thing. There's nothing changing. Every single time I've come out with more notes, with things I didn't know, because now I can focus on, I can kind of tune out the things I've already heard and the things I've already studied. And now I hear new things. Now I hear new sentences, or I hear it differently, because now I've actually been through that situation, or I've actually had a client experience something that they were talking about. So now I can pick it in a new way, because I'm like, oh, okay, well, for a VA benefit, I know that for the VA guidelines, right, X, Y, and Z is possible, and this lender did A, B, C to make it not possible. So now let me pick it in a new way, you know. So I like that you said you walk into a room and you always want to know nothing or act as though you know nothing, because then you can learn. And I think for entrepreneurs and business people, especially for small businesses who start getting bigger, I feel that they have that trouble a lot. You know, they automatically think, oh, I already know everything about the ice cream business. I already know everything about car washing. I know how to car wash. Like, I know how to wash a car. And in reality, you could always learn something if you just have that in your mindset, right? I can learn something today. You know? Yeah,
that's for sure. You might know how to do this exact way, but sometimes somebody has a way that could do it a lot better and a lot easier and a lot faster that you never would have actually thought about, unless you put yourself in that position to where you're just like, let me actually learn. Even though this is a seminar full of car washers and everybody knows how to wash a car, okay, but they do it in different methods that you might never have thought about, which could, again, make your business a lot better, a lot smoother, because then you can take that knowledge that you learn and apply it to yourself, which you can benefit from it.
Yeah. So I would also ask, is there ever a time that your what involves asking for help?
Always.
Always?
Always. My what is always asking help. Always asking the question that you need, even when you think you know it, you might not actually know it fully. And somebody might come along the way where they know the answer a lot better than you do. Yes, I know how to do this, but at the same time, let me ask this person to see if I can do this way any better. And yes, they give me the same answer, but in a better way to where it's more feasible and explainable and be able to process a lot easier.
I think that's another big thing for a lot of entrepreneurs, business people, and just people in general. I think it's human nature. We really don't want to ask for help too much,
Yeah.
you know. And I'll tell you, I didn't want to ask for help for a long time. For a long, long time. The first time I actually asked somebody for help, whether it be business, school, whatever, the first time I actually sat down with somebody, and like how me and you are right now, and I was like, hey, I need help. The first time was, I think, 22, 21 maybe right before I turned 22, is I actually sat down and said, hey, I need help. Like, I need help doing something. Like, what do you need help doing? And then we went on from there, and I just realized that asking for help in certain situations, it actually helps. Like, it helps a ton. And I think a lot of people get stuck on that, and they think, oh, I don't need to ask for help, you know? And then people get stuck in those situations of, oh, I'm not getting a lot of sales. Well, I don't need to ask for help. I just need to try and do something different. Whereas instead of doing something different, you might have been doing something the right way, but your what for every single day wasn't getting you that progression, right? And I think both of us kind of realized that when we first started this real estate journey at Heritage a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because of what? It's actually been almost exactly a year, a little over exactly a year, right?
October.
So that we actually started here at Heritage. And for the first 4 months, I never asked for help. I didn't ask for help until February or March of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since I started asking for help, I mean, it's just been a world of a difference. I don't know if you kind of had that same situation with you.
Well, yeah, so for me, asking for help is not the biggest thing. You know, I grew up in a household to where if you needed something, just ask.
Mm-hmm.
5 out of 7, somebody's gonna have an answer for something, right? And by that I mean I'm 5 out of 7 kids, so somebody's gonna have an answer for something. So asking for help was never the biggest thing for me because I know that I personally don't know everything, so I always have to go out and ask somebody for a better answer, a better response, or a better anything in general.
Mm-hmm.
But I see where you're coming from because some people and the way they grow up, and that's the reason why I brought up the way I grew up, is some people were brought up to where they have to be very independent, and it's very hard for them to ask the questions that they need to ask,
Mm-hmm.
or ask for help in general. You have a lot of people who raise very independent kids, and that's amazing. But there's a backfire to it because when they get older, they've been so independent their whole life that they just cannot ask the questions. And then when it comes down to business-wise, a business owner, entrepreneur, it goes just back to that same mindset of how they grew up. My mom said I can do this, and my dad said I could do this, and I got to go out there and figure it out. Or I didn't have a mom, or I didn't have a dad, and I just figured it out my whole entire life, and I took care of it my whole entire life. Or I've been the caregiver, oldest brother and sister, whatever the case was. It's the mindset that you put yourself into on, what was that word?
That was kind of like help.
Yeah, help. Sorry, brain fart. But yeah, just that help portion of asking for it is what a lot of people struggle for it. And in this business too, nobody ever wants to seem like they don't know anything. But again, asking for help is not the hardest thing. At least it's never been for me. I know from the very beginning, if I'm struggling with something and I don't know something, my quick answer is, how do I do this? Or how do I do that? Or I pick up the phone and call somebody, hey, do you know how to figure this out or do this? Because again, me, I don't know everything.
Yeah. I think that's a big thing, and I think it's a really big key for not just entrepreneurs, but as people in general, you know, instead of just wondering what your why is, actually sit there and reflect and just think about the what, right? Because you said the first thing you do when you get up is you get ready to go to the gym,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think I discussed this on a previous episode with Anthony that for me, first thing I do when I get up, I don't go to the gym. And it doesn't have to be that you go to the gym the very first thing, right? The first thing I do when I get up is I sit there and I meditate, right? And I sit there and I'm just quiet. I'm by myself, in myself for 30 minutes, just thinking, just asking myself questions, reflecting, right? Then I read a chapter in my book, whatever book I'm on at the time. Right now it's Atomic Habits for the second time that I'm reading that one. So just so you know, and everybody out there knows, you know, it doesn't have to be the exact pattern, right? Everybody says you got to be part of 4 a.m. club to be successful. You got to work out at 4 a.m. It's like, fuck that. I'm not waking up at 4 a.m. and then going to the gym at 4:05. No, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? I'm just not. Because that's not how I operate. That's not how I put myself in the right headspace for what I'm doing that day.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's about being intentional. And for you, being intentional is a lot easier when you work out. You know, first thing in the morning, get the hard thing out of the way, and then you start your day, you start doing everything else, which I think is really cool. And I think it's good to see different people perform that why and that what differently and kind of give different aspects on it too. So, but right now we kind of covered everything. Is there any last thing you want to give to everybody before we kind of sign off? Is any last gold nuggets, any little tips or anything like that?
Everybody's why and what is completely different than what our whys and what. Even his whys and whats are completely different. So the best thing I can tell you guys is, as you begin your day, just figure out what are you going to do to achieve the why you want to do it. For example, what are you going to do every single day that's going to be able to achieve the long-term goal that you set yourself for? And that's the best thing I can tell you guys to do. Because, again, two completely different people, two completely different mindsets. Just figure out what is going to get you to your why.
Right. I like it. And I'll end off with saying something similar, but I'm just going to let everybody know, make sure that your what is intentional with creating that why and I guess supporting it in a way, because your what is going to give your why a ton more meaning, right? My why is my family. This, you know, why do I grind so hard? Is for my family to be comfortable, set up in certain ways. What am I doing every day to make sure I'm being intentional to make sure that why is taken care of? And I just want to leave everybody with that. So ask yourself that every day. What am I doing to be intentional today? What am I doing to get my why in a better place? But with that, it's been real. It's Tyler, Jeff. We're signing off. Empire Podcast, episode 4. Click the link below to go ahead and watch, because this clip will be on Instagram for you. So click the link below. Go ahead, click it, and then you can watch the video, the full thing. Other than that, signing off.
Catch you to the next one.